Okay, we should this time. Heads on, please.
We've all been brought up watching Creatures and Frankenstein's monster and Wookiees and we all kind of like to believe in all of that stuff a little bit, you know, and I don't think anybody ever really grows out of that. And so when you're confronted by somebody...
And these droids, recognise these guys?
Yep.
Whether it be C-3PO or a real Wookiee standing there in front of you, you actually don't really think about it as being a technical thing anymore. You see a real character.
There's an on switch around here somewhere, I don't know where. Hang on. Here it is.
Mine.
The thing that we've really liked about trying to cover every area of creature effects, from prosthetics, animatronics, mechanics, fabrication, bodysuit, hair, feathers, fur, everything. It's really good because then you get to really follow through the whole design process.
Okay, here we are.
Something that I'd seen, which was a kind of, I mean, originally what I saw was a kind of scarring, but it's like perfectly symmetrical little ridges that just came right, if I dare, wreck your...
Go for it.
But it would go, you know, there'd be one there. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's probably... It has a ridge on it, which obviously I can't do.
And the final piece of the jigsaw came from George, who actually had a picture of a sculpture that he had that had all those striations running down the face, and he went, I want it to kind of look like that.
That's what we're trying to do.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Stripes on the head, and then there's the back shot.
I mean, we're still doing makeups in foam latex, but I guess the biggest advances that are being made now are in animatronics.
The plan has gone as you had promised, my lord.
The technology of the prosthetics has changed quite a lot.
On The Phantom Menace, what they had was guys off camera listening to me speaking the lines inside the head with a microphone and an earpiece, and then they would try and remote control the facial expressions, which were very basic. And now they've actually changed the motoring, so they've got even more facial expressions.
The plan has gone as you had promised, my lord.
Whoa.
We have, my lord.
Hands off.
The second time round, they actually computerized the movement of the mouth, and then I pre-recorded it, and the mouth moved depending on what I had already kind of recorded.
The ship is breaking up!
So the lip syncing was already done for us. Now they've even refined all of the kind of mechanics of moving the facial expressions. When you're doing something like I am, which is basically I'm not a faced actor, I'm within prosthetics, you translate a lot of the personality of the character with your body.
The plan has gone as you had promised, my lord.
So Newt is this kind of very slimy sort of character who is hunched and disappearing inside of himself. And Kiadi has a kind of grace about him, and his body's much stiller and he's much more elegant. And that's the way in which I try to portray my idea of the character through all of this, you know, mechanical, rubbery stuff that's on the outside.
Have you shut down your droid armies?
We have, my lord.
In the past, people were sort of willing to accept them just sort of opening and closing their mouth, and that would be enough to convince you that the puppet was talking. And people are so much more sophisticated than that now. They want the lips to actually form the words.
I'm only operating three things, which is his jaw, his top lip, his bottom lip, and we have to plug in other bits to get his nostrils going. So even though Paul might be screaming, I'm hated in here, the character will be going, I'm having a wonderful time. Help me, help me.
When you're actually under the lights, under the pressure, the heat that comes off these lights is, you know, it's amazing. And if the air conditioning has to be turned off because of sound, and all your senses are cut off, you can't really hear. And you're breathing warm air as well. So I think it takes a special kind of performer to be able to embrace this kind of work.
It's going to be quite, so it must be pretty thin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. Excellent.
Yeah.
And so now, we'll be doing a cast of your hands so you can have nice wrinkled hands as well.
basically, I come from kind of inside the character. So for a while, I thought of things like the wisdom of a gorilla. There's this darkness around my eyes. My eyes are black. Even though they might be huge animals that could, crush you to death, there's wonderful tenderness and accumulated wisdom. And I was looking at that and I thought, well, there's an element of that there in the eyes. And then there's this aging here, that reminds me of an old man. And all this complicated information sort of zaps through your brain and through the synapses. But then there comes a point in time where you go, goodbye, and it all goes, and then you just let it sit, and those elements just come spontaneously. So with the makeup artist's help and with George's help, I found myself sort of putting together this character. What's it like without the bottom teeth?
It looks okay, actually. Do you want to try it without the bottoms? Let's take them out. There we go.
I like that top lip. And it's a completely different expression.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's better without.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
This is crunch time. This is the last week of filming. Almost everything that we've done seems to be on this week, but it's pretty exciting, and I'm actually very sorry to see this film go now because it has been so much fun.
It's amazing how ugly they can make these things these days.
Didn't flinch.
That was cool. Didn't flinch. Let's hope that makes it onto the DVD.